This is webinar number 5 in the Profitable Grazing Systems series, and is all around recruiting producers for your supported learning projects. So once again, this webinar is targeted towards potential and existing service providers for the program. Before we get into the content, however, if you're having any issues with your audio connection, there's a couple of different ways you can join us and listen in. The first is just via the phone, which most of us are doing, where you can just dial in and enter in the prompts that you would have received in your registration email and your reminder email. And the second is to dial in using the webinar program, which a few people are doing as well. Which is just connecting via your computer, and there's a video address that you can click to join. So I would ask that everyone to please mute themselves just to help us manage background noise, obviously with the exception of our lovely guest speakers today. And if you have a question at any point in time throughout the webinar, you're very welcome to pop that into the chat function. I'll be monitoring that throughout the webinar, and you can send that either directly to myself or to everyone or to the guest speaker, it doesn't matter. And then we'll be pausing throughout the presentation to address those questions. So yeah, feel free to pop that in at any time. Okay, Leanne, so our guest speaker today for today's webinar is Leanne Sheriff, who is acting as the Interim National Coordinator for the Profitable Grazing Systems Program. So Leanne, if you're happy to kick off with your presentation, I've got your first slide up there for you. Leanne? This isn't a good start, everyone. Trying to think of some good jokes off the top of my head. Leanne, are you still there? I'll just see if I can find our guest speaker for today and make sure she hasn't dropped out or something. Bear with me 1 second. Sorry, everyone. Leanne?
Yes, I think I'm back online.
You're back online. Excellent. Yes, I can hear you a bit scratchy, but I can hear you. Did you want to kick off with your presentation? Leanne? Sorry, everyone. This is a good start to the webinar, isn't it? Leanne?
Yep. Hi.
Okay, cool. Did you want to kick off with your presentation?
Yep. Could you just go to the second slide, please? Yep.
No problem at all. Off you go.
Okay. One of the key issues that was identified last year during the pilot project for profitable grazing systems was the barrier of service providers being able to recruit producers willing to pay to participate in their programs. So with this in mind, a key platform of profitable grazing systems will be to assist PGS supported learning project deliverers in recruiting for their projects, and it will be a key role of their state coordinators to assist them in doing that. So tonight's webinar will involve going through this process in some detail so you're a lot more familiar with what the offer is, I guess, and the role that the state coordinators for profitable grazing systems will be able to support you in recruiting deliverers for your project. Next slide, please, Julie. So for deliverers who do require assistance with recruitment, the first step after their supported learning project is approved will be to work with their state coordinators to develop a recruitment plan. So this recruitment plan approach is intended to help to design a really strategic and effective approach to recruitment for supported learning projects. We've also prepared some recruitment guidelines for deliverers which step through the different elements of recruitment and the items which are really important to consider. It's important to note that the recruitment plan is not compulsory for deliverers. For example, if you already are working with a producer group and you don't need any assistance, then that's fine. It's simply there as a tool and a resource for deliverers who do need it, who are recruiting from scratch effectively. The recruitment plan focuses on 4 key recruitment channels, and what we're going to do in today's webinar is step through each of these. So we're looking at feeder activities that are funded and supported by profitable grazing systems, other events and activities that may be relevant and which are happening anyway, MLA's communication channels and how they can use to support you, and also other external communication channels. Next slide, please, Julie. This next slide is effectively what the recruitment plan template looks like. It's fairly simple. It's just a nice, straightforward table. At the bottom of the recruitment plan template is where we will start to fill it in. This is a brief summary of the supported learning project, and this will provide the context for the recruitment plan. Everything's feeding into this and leading into this. Next slide, please, Julie. So the first component of the recruitment plan to look at is the other events that may act as feeders. These are things which are already running or being planned, and they're probably outside profitable grazing systems, but they're going to be targeting a similar or relevant audience to that which you're interested in for your supported learning project. And some examples of things might be pasture updates, bred well, fed well, or it's you time. It would be really important to consider in using these events who's running the activity and what are their objectives and how well are they aligned and relevant to your supported learning project. Next slide, please, Julie. And for this one, Julie, I'll hand over to you. This is the MLA communication channel.
No worries. Thanks, Leanne. So there's a variety of different MLA communication channels which will be available to assist in promoting the different events that you might be looking to run. Obviously, we've got a lot of social media options such as Facebook, Twitter, that type of thing. There's also opportunity to lodge your events with us to be uploaded on the MLA website on the events section of the page. With enough notice, these things can be featured in things potentially such as different newsletters that might be going out on a regular basis. And there is the potential too for us to do targeted emails to producers within a specific PO postcode sort of list, so we can target those who might be regionally, close in proximity to the event that you might be looking to run. I think that is about it. Certainly we can provide, there's all sorts of support and whatnot available in terms of the logos to use and a few different templates and so forth as well.
Great.
Have I forgotten anything, Leanne?
No, I think that's great. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Next slide, please. So the next column in the recruitment plan template is other communication channels, and there's a host of things that are potentially relevant here for different supported learning projects. There's potentially producer discussion groups that you might directly target. You might have a sponsor or partner involved in your supported learning project, so they might promote your supported learning project to their networks and their clients. There might be your own website and your own social media streams that you use within your organisation. There's potential to use the media, so to have media releases to your local regional newspapers, or for example, the ABC Country Hour for your region. Again, industry newsletters, so that might be red meat industry groups within your area. It might be the peak farmer body newsletters and calendars, NRM or CMA networks, and broader industry networks, and also other deliverers and their client base that you might be collaborating with them or have access to them as well. So I guess we're trying to encourage people in recruiting for their supported learning projects to think really broadly about all of the different channels that they could use, and so this is those channels, I guess. Next slide, please, Julie. So the final step in the recruitment plan is for profitable grazing systems funded feeder activities. So we do have some funding available to deliver targeted feeder activities to specific supported learning projects. If you could just skip to the next slide, please, Julie. So I just wanted to give everyone a reminder of what the different categories are for activities within MLA's extension and adoption programs. So just dropping straight down to the Category C activities. So this is where PGS supported learning projects fit. The focus of these activities is clearly on skill development and implementing those new skills and the learnings from the project within the farm business to improve profitability. The feeder activities sit up in the Category B and the Category A area. So in the Category B, there may still be changes in knowledge or attitude or skills. However, they're unlikely to have the same embedded practice change that we're aiming for with a Category C activity. But they do, both of those activities, the Category A and the Category B, do highlight the potential. So they highlight the potential of what could be achieved by adopting new practices. So as far as the feeder activities that PGS can support, these are some of the expectations around those, and these expectations are written for Category B. We do have the capacity to fund some Category A. There must be a really strong demonstration that these will be strategic and effective, particularly around providing a value proposition to producers to contribute a significant amount of their own money and their own time to engaging in a supported learning project. So the kinds of things that could be funded would be workshops or webinars. Comparative analysis sessions are also eligible for funding. MLA can fund up to 50% of the event cost for a Category B activity, up to a maximum of $2,500. We do recommend a minimum producer contribution, and there's a clear expectation that feeder activities will be effective in recruiting producers for a supported learning project, and that about 10 to 15% of those feeder activity participants will engage in a supported learning project, and that's the key KPI for profitable grazing systems. The reason for having the recruitment plan template is to demonstrate that the feeder activities are strategic and that they do complement other recruitment tactics which are being used. There will be M&E requirements around PGS funded feeder activities, and there is a feeder activity application form. So that needs to be feeded by whoever the feeder activity coordinator is, and it may not be the coordinator or deliverer of the feeder activity, but whoever is the coordinator of that activity must submit the application form to the Profitable Grazing System State Coordinator for approval. In cases where the state coordinator is the feeder activity coordinator, it needs to be sent to the National Coordinator for Profitable Grazing Systems for approval. Next slide, please, Julie. So there's been clear criteria for feeder activities that have been identified based on previous experience with MLA extension adoption projects of what the key elements are for activities to be effective at recruiting producers to take the next steps to improving their skills and their management and their bottom line. So some of these criteria are that there must be a really clear value proposition for the supported learning project. For example, testimonials, the return on investment that can be generated from participating, or an offer of a money-back guarantee if participants aren't satisfied with their supported learning project, they'll get their cash back. At the feeder activity, there needs to be a really clear call to action with consistent messages across all of the presenters and all pointing to the need to take the next steps and the benefits of taking those. It must really challenge participants to be prepared to take the next step, and a really powerful way of doing this is to use champion producers to tell their story as something of a case study, and that can really encourage others to follow. There needs to be opportunities to sign up on the day. There can't be any ambiguity or guesswork about how they can enrol and how they can sign up and what's involved in signing up. And clearly it's got to have the right audience in attendance. It can't just promote for the feeder activity itself, but also to the supported learning project, which is going to be where the feeder activity is targeting to go to. Could you skip to the next slide, please, Julie? So I haven't included the feeder activity application form in this presentation, but essentially the questions on this slide, if they can be answered and there's enough information to answer them, then there's enough information to complete the application form. So I'll just quickly step through these. So the first thing to consider is around what aspect of the supported learning project will be used as the hook to motivate people to sign up. Which of the curriculum pillars of profitable grazing systems does the feeder activity align with? For example, is it feed-based or people or business? Just to identify that. And that should definitely overlap with whatever the supported learning project curriculum pillars are. What are the attributes of the producers that you're targeting? For example, are you targeting sheep producers? Are you targeting large-scale goat producers? Are you targeting medium-scale beef producers? What will be the key messages that will be delivered by the feeder activity? And something that we've seen happen a little bit is sometimes the feeder activities get too busy and the key messages can be lost. So it's really important to try and keep that consistency between different presenters in what your key messages really are. Who is the best placed person or people to deliver those key messages? And that can include the champion producer and the technical presenter. It might be that the deliverer for the supported learning project is the best person. It might be that someone else external to them is best placed to fill that role. How will the feeder activity motivate producers to take the next steps? What's going to be the value proposition presented to them? Who's going to coordinate the feeder activity? As I said before, it doesn't necessarily need to be the supported learning project deliverer, but that needs to be clearly understood and the parties' roles in the delivery of that feeder activity understood. So what type of event it's going to be? What will the format be? What time of year? What time of day? How long is it going to go for? How many people do you need in the audience? And where's it going to be located? Will it be on farm or will it be at a venue somewhere? So there's lots of things to consider in there. Another important thing to consider is the existing MLA tools and resources that could be used to support the activity or to help encourage participants again to take the next step. For example, there's the Rainfall to Pasture Outlook tool, there's a Phosphorus tool, there's loads of great tools that were developed through Making More from Sheep and More Beef from Pastures, and they're definitely available, and we strongly encourage deliverers to continue to use those resources through profitable grazing systems. What tactics are you going to use to get the participants at your feeder activity to sign up for your supported learning project? For example, you might have registration sheets, register your interest. You might have just general sign-up forms. You might include a little ticker box on your monitoring evaluation form. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that, but just being really clear about how you're going to do that is important. And what does the program for the day look like? Who's presenting when? How long can you allocate different speakers? All of those sorts of things. And then last but definitely not least, what's it going to cost to deliver it and how will it be funded? Will you need additional funds to those that profitable grazing system can contribute? Will you need to engage potentially other partners and sponsors? And if so, what are their needs and how are you going to incorporate those into the day without diminishing your effectiveness of your feeder activity? and also, again, around participants contributing, how much do you want them to pay, and bearing that in mind in determining the overall budget. That's it for that slide, Julie. If you could turn to the next one, please. So finally, this slide just summarises the available resources that we have for deliverers, and they're all available from your Profitable Grazing System State Coordinator. So the first one is the Recruitment Plan template, which we stepped through this evening. The next one is the feeder activity application form, and that's required to be filled in and will be assessed and approved by the State Coordinator or the National Coordinator where it's appropriate. To access the MLA funding through Profitable Grazing Systems. We actually have some guidelines that we've developed around the recruitment process, which just helps to provide some tips and suggestions and to work you through the process. We've got worked examples of all of the templates and documents, so the recruitment plan and the feeder activity application form. And there'll also be monitoring evaluation templates provided. So once you get your supported learning project approved, then the first thing to do is to get in touch with your state coordinator if you do require assistance with recruitment, and then they can help step you through these processes so that you're able to access MLA's Profitable Grazing System support to recruit. That's really everything I wanted to say, Julie, so I'm happy to skip to the next slide and open it up to any questions.
Thanks very much, Leanne. That was an excellent overview, and I should apologise again to everyone for the zombies on the phone who were making a great deal of noise earlier. So we've had a couple of questions come through. Before I get to those, though, if anyone does have any questions that they'd like to ask, just pop those into the chat function, which should be on the right-hand side of your screen there. One of the questions, or more of a comment, was that there seems to be quite a flexible arrangement to some extent, Leanne. Like we're the program's not being really explicit and specific about what they'd like to see for feeder activities, that sort of stuff. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but I suppose my comment would be that I guess it's part of the attraction. You can make this what you need it to be for something that's going to work in your area with your understanding of the producers you're wanting to target. But I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Leanne?
Yeah, no, definitely I agree with that, Julie, that we've taken an approach like this deliberately because we want these feeders to be really effective. And it's the people on the ground who know their audience and know their area to know what needs to happen and what the best way is for that to happen. I guess the key KPI that the feeders will be measured against is that conversion, and that's the most important thing that we're focused on, as well as the programs being strategic and on message.
Well, I guess, Leanne, that conversion is really important for everyone, I suppose, because as a deliverer, that's where you're going to make your margins, hopefully, with the program. So, in terms of different formats for the feeder activities, there's certainly lots of discussion that different things work for different producers and areas and states and whatnot. Could you use something like a bit of a comparative analysis session or something like that as a feeder activity? If you've got a group of producers who are interested in doing, who know they want to be involved, they want to do something, and they've just got to, I suppose, fine tune exactly what they need to focus on.
Yep, definitely. There was we strongly encourage the use of comparative analysis sessions at the start of Profitable Grazing System supported learning projects to really help producers nail down where their areas of maybe improvement are, and also to help them understand what the potential is if they do improve, what the potential gains are. So we see comparative analysis sessions as being really fundamental to understanding the key profit drivers within businesses and enabling producers to understand what it is that they need to do to address those and to lift their own performance.
Yeah, and I guess in addition to that, whilst the comparative analysis side of things isn't a compulsory part of the program, it's certainly strongly encouraged, because I guess it's going to give you as a deliverer and the producers who are involved some numbers right from the get-go. Like that was one of the key pieces of feedback we got from producers who were involved in the pilot for this program, was that this was one of the first times for some of them that they'd actually been able to go through, customise the material and, you know, best practice recommendations and whatnot for their own circumstances, and put some numbers around it to know whether or not this is going to be worthwhile for them in the long run. So that was certainly one of the standout pieces of feedback we got from the pilot.
Yes,
So are there any other questions from any of our attendees? I should say too that the contact information for each of our state coordinators is up on the MLA website on the Profitable Grazing Systems landing page. So there's contact information there for all of our people. And oh, hang on, sorry, Leanne's telling me that's on the next slide. Good job. Then there's also contact information there for Leanne on that page as well, should you have any questions. And we're just in the process working through the recruitment for the South Australian person, but we should have that ready to announce by the end of this week. And I should say too that we have, so Leanne has been working as the interim national coordinator for the program, and we have been advised that someone's been appointed for the role of national coordinator within Meat and Livestock Australia, and that's Christine Purdy. So Christine will be starting in the role a bit later this month, and has an excellent background looking after designing contracts and budgets and relationship development. So she'll be a real asset to the team. And don't forget, okay. So if there's no further questions for Leanne or I, thanks very much for joining us for the webinar. This is going to be, I think, the last webinar for the service providers for a little while, and after the earlier zombie performance, I can't tell you how glad I am about that. So if you did have any feedback just in terms of the webinars, the content, anything else that you think was missing or you'd like to see improved or whatnot other than the audio connection, please feel free to complete the SurveyMonkey link, and I'll circulate that through to everyone after today's webinar as well. So I think that's it. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Leanne?
No, thank you, Julie.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It's been great. It's been great having you on this journey, and we're really excited about this program, and can't wait to be in touch further with all of you about any supported learning program applications you might want to put in. So take care, and thanks again. Bye.